Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for August 7th, 2022. In the security and privacy alerts section, just a reminder for those of you who are covered by the new FTC safeguards rule. It goes into effect in December of this year. And there are some significant implications of it, like having a full data map. So if you need some help getting ready for that or have questions about it, please reach out to us. Next, and it's not a big surprise, but NIST released 4 post-quantum encryption algorithms. So far, those are holding up so far. But one candidate in the second batch that hadn't been released yet fell by the wayside. It was cracked on a single core CPU, one CPU, no supercomputers here. And it fell in I think like an hour or something. So it didn't take very long. So it just shows that building post-quantum crypto is a hard thing to do. And next, Slack said they had a software bug which exposed hashed passwords. So at least they weren't in the clear. They were hashed. Still, that's not a great thing. And so they are doing a forced reset of everybody's password. I don't think it's a huge deal, but it just shows that, even when you try hard, writing software is difficult, and writing software that has 0 bugs is really difficult. Next, in the reference section, NIST has revised their compliance guidelines for the HIPAA security rule. This is for folks that are either covered entities or business associates. And one of the challenges, a lot of companies don't realize that they are covered entities because of the way their insurance programs work, but they are. We had one company that we advised that was quite surprised that they were a covered entity, actually. Business associates are those people who provide services to those companies. So there's a lot more business associates. And NIST has updated the requirements. They really haven't changed a whole lot, but there's a lot more detail in terms of helping people understand what the requirements are. As more data is stored electronically, the risk goes up, and the risk mitigations need to go up to counter that. Next, under patches, VMware has released a patch to an authentication bypass bug. It has a score of 9.8 out of 10, so it's fairly risky. And there's a number of CVE numbers, so there's a number of bugs that are related to this particular problem, and VMware is recommending people patch things quickly. Next, on the legal front, we have seen there was a recent crypto company, crypto exchange kind of company as a bridge that had a breach, and apparently they had been sort of suggesting that their deposits were protected by the FDIC. And the FDI just came out with an advisory that said, not only no, but hell no. You may be a bank and you may partner with some cryptocurrency exchanges, but whatever you do in the crypto space, that is not protected by the federal government, and do not tell people that it is protected by the federal government, because it is not. Something which I think most people understood, I think, but it's not a bad thing to go off and remind people that there is no government insurance for that kind of stuff. And next, and this is not exactly a cybersecurity thing, but it kind of falls in the general area. Open Door, they call themselves a real estate technology firm. As part of that, they will provide cash offers for people's houses. You may remember that Rocket Mortgage, part of Quicken Loans, or Quicken, the Quicken company, got themselves in trouble, and they shut down their program, and they unloaded it, and they fired everybody. It turns out that's a hard problem to deal with in any kind of scale. So these guys' solution was they paid people less than market, even though they told people that wasn't the case. They made them pay more for, quote, required repairs, and they lied about a lot of stuff. So they paid the Fed $60 million. which supposedly is going to be used for restitution to people that wound up on the wrong end of that deal. And they said, oh, gee, we changed that marketing stuff a couple of years ago. So not sure what it says now, but at least for some number of years, they were misrepresenting, at least according to the feds, misrepresenting to the consumers what was going on. And just part of the Fed's consumer protection activities, they whack these guys. So beware, be careful what you say. It can be used against you in a court of law, in this case, quite literally. Next, in education, for years, NIST had some pretty stringent password recommendations. And I think the challenge we've got now is getting all the regulators aligned with what the new recommendations are. But one of the vendors we represent, ManageEngine, has put out a very nice and relatively short booklet on what the new NIST recommendations are and how they compare to the old recommendations. So you might want to look at that. Make sure that whatever you do is kosher with your regulator. If you're in a regulated industry, if you're not in a regulated industry, you can do whatever the hell you want. So, I would say the new NIST guidelines are probably what I would recommend you move to the degree that you can do that and keep your regulators happy. Next, in breaches, we have the Nomad Crypto Bridge. A crypto bridge is a service that allows you to move cryptocurrency from one kind of currency to another kind of currency. They apparently had a bug that allowed people to screw up the system, and about $190 million was drained in a matter of a few hours. It now appears possibly that some of that was drained by the good guys to protect it from being taken by the bad guys. And they said, gee, we absolutely will give this back. So we don't know what the final toll is here. But, one more time, it's clear, Nomad, I can't imagine they had $200 million worth of cyber insurance. That would be almost impossible for a startup to afford these days. But it just points to, if you're betting more than the lunch money on crypto, caveat emptor, because make it all get washed away in an instant. Next, Neopets, which is I'm not sure I quite understand the draw of this, but it's a virtual universe where users can care for imaginary pets. They got whacked a hack of almost 70 million sets of credentials. The good news is that the information was relatively low risk, like name, address, email, birthday, stuff like that. But they also had a hack in 2013, and in 2016, the database that was hacked in 2013 was publicly leaked. This hacker is the same guy that hacked the Shanghai police database. So he goes after large targets with large numbers of users, and 70 million certainly qualifies in that world. And next, an Indiana neurology practice leaked information on about 350,000 patients. It just says, it's really hard to go deal with that. The neurology practice reported the breach to the Maine Attorney General, because I guess some of their clients were from Maine. And it turns out that, and I can't harp on this enough, bad data management practices makes their problem worse. So the bad guys did not get into the healthcare record system. They got into the clinics or practices email system and other data puddles where sensitive patient information was being stored, likely in violation of all kinds of laws. But certainly, if not in violation of laws, certainly in violation of good security practices. And so, it requires some work to go off and make sure that these data islands are not lurking in your enterprise. But likely these are places where the data exists and management doesn't even know that the data exists there, and certainly not protecting it, managing it, and reporting on it and stuff like that. So Not a great situation. And moving on to the daily blog posts, the feds apparently used the All Writs Act, which is a 1700s era law that allowed the government to house soldiers in people's houses during time of war, but is written so generally that it could be used for almost anything. They used this law to force certain tech companies to basically put a feed off their system into the feds for a couple of years when they were looking for a particular guy. They did eventually find the guy, but it just kind of points to the fact that the government has a lot of power. And if you have the data, then you really have no defense in terms of not giving it to the feds if they ask for it. Next, secure by design is becoming a popular phrase. It has been really applied to folks that are doing software development, either in-house or paying for other folks to do software development for them on their behalf. But it really applies to all enterprises. And this article in this week's newsletter provides some recommendations in terms of some of the core tenets of secure by design. In moving on to the CMMC world, we're seeing some of our competitors going off and trying to use scare tactics, telling people, well, you better be certified by next May. Well, that's just a lie. That's just not an issue. It is true that it is possible, assuming that the feds get their way, they come next May, some RFPs may have CMMC language in it. We don't know yet whether that's going to happen. But because 801.71, which has been enforced since 2017, and CMMC are very, very closely related. People, even if you ignore the CMMC requirements, which will happen sometime in the future, you could get whacked by the 801.71 requirements, which are enforced today, and which the Justice Department is going after people and has racked up a couple of multi-million-dollar settlements in the last couple of months from people who said they were compliant with 801.71 and were not. And lastly, in the security news bites for this week, the U.S. emergency alert system, the thing that warned you about tornadoes and earthquakes and all other kinds of bad stuff, apparently has a minor bug which would allow a hacker to go off and issue their own alerts at their free will. That likely is, could obviously cause a lot of panic, right? That would be the bad thing around it, but directly in terms of damaging things, unlikely. But I think that the key risk there is people panicking and all the fallout from that. Most of you probably know I'm not a big fan of smart locks. Here's another reason why. One maker of smart locks forgot to validate the security certificates that went between the user's device and the lock, which means that any security certificate would work. Oh boy, not much of a problem there. And so, if you're counting on a smart lock to be secure, that's probably in today's world a mistake. Just remember, all this smart technology is based on software. And if you haven't noticed, software is rarely bug-free. So just take that into account as to where you use smart devices. The New York State financial regulator, who is a bear to work with, they take their job very, very seriously. Just whacked Carnival Cruise Lines. I kind of wondered why Carnival Cruise Lines and all the many brands that they own were even regulated by DFS, but it's because they sell insurance to people who take their cruises, whether it's life insurance or cruise insurance or whatever. And so Carnival just decided, after paying some money to settle the case, that they're just not going to sell insurance in New York anymore. I think that's probably a smart move on their part, because clearly their security practices over the last several years have been shown to be a tad bit lacking. Next, excuse me, on the good side, and I don't think this is what they call it, this is what I'm calling it. Samsung has created a nosy tech support mode. This uses their Knox technology, which is encryption technology that's been in their phones forever, to lock down folders, so that technicians who are nosy and nosing through your phone can't find various documents or pictures in there that you don't want them to see. So this would allow you to lock down these folders and then give your phone or tablet to a technician to go repair. And those folders are encrypted, so even if they make a copy of the disk or whatever, it's not going to help them because they're not going to be able to get in there. And finally, one more time, no big surprise here. People who use the two words T-Mobile and security in the same sentence are disappointed. That's probably an understatement. Apparently, a guy who owned a T-Mobile store at one point in time, no longer, was using his knowledge of how the T-Mobile system worked to fish in T-Mobile employees, had credentials for many employees, and created this phone for the black market or this program rather, for the black market to unlock phones that were locked either because they had been lost or stolen or because they were under a contract. He apparently made upwards of $25 million doing this. So it was a nice profitable business for him until he got caught at it, of course. Now he's kind of doing time. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay safe.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.